The Colorado Avalanche have been eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs in shocking fashion. They looked like they had the lead, but ultimately fell short. And you can see it on the players' faces and how they reacted. They were absolutely shocked, just like the rest of us. And honestly, there was a little bit of disdain going on for the front office and the coaching, as seen in some players' interviews. What is up, Avalanche Nation? This is Avalanche Digests. Sorry to bring you some bad news on this day. I wish I had something better, but honestly, this is the time to reevaluate and try again for next season. That's just the mentality you got to have. So, really, getting right into it, we saw a pretty surprising thing from Nathan MacKinnon. I mean, he looked completely just dejected in his interview. I mean, saying that, and basically what all of us were thinking, that they had their best defenseman and their best forward possibly out and still couldn't beat them. And it's kind of just unacceptable how that couldn't happen in general. I mean, obviously McKinnon's going to be upset about that, and he absolutely has a right to. I mean, in this series, pretty much one of the most probably best points to be made is from Evan Rawl. The reffing obviously had some wildly inconsistent things. Calls were made on the Avs that weren't called on the Stars, but also the Avs were given gifts in pretty much 3 games that the Avs should have absolutely won. The power play is the reason the Avs lost this series. It went 3 for like 16 across the entire series, and that's just unacceptable. I think it's not out of the realm to say that we are pretty much going to see widespread firings from the Colorado Avalanche. Whether that's how the extent of it is pretty much what we're going to be seeing for the next few days. But really, you just see the shock of the players and just how bad the power play led. I mean, and here you see that you had a power play with under 2 minutes left in game 2, and you didn't capitalize on it. You barely even got a shot. You had a 4-minute minor in game 3 in overtime and still didn't win it. This game, game 7, you also had a 4-minute minor and didn't score a single goal in it. That is just unacceptable. The Avalanche's power play coach is Ray Bennett, and he just cost himself his job. What a joke of a coach. I never want to see him employed again, quite honestly. Really, he was also the guy that won the Stanley Cup for the Avalanche. But eventually, when stuff like that happens, you got to mix it up. You got to keep it fresh. And that's kind of the reason as to why. I mean, eventually, teams found out the Avalanche's power play, which has been a top power play for the longest time. But you saw, especially this season, they just had it completely figured out. There was no new stuff. The Avs were just could not break through. And with Cale Makar not playing his best, it just kind of all led into the disaster we saw. Now, Jared Bednar, I agree. I think the 5-on-5 play in the series from the Avs was stellar, but special teams was what lost the battle. The power play and the penalty kill were horrific. The power play was awful, as I just explained, but the penalty kill was honestly pretty bad too. For a few years now, the Avs have been running this diamond system of a power play. And the diamond, which is literally coined by the name because you can see the way they actually assemble on the power play, is very rarely used on the power play. It can be aggressive when it needs to be, but really its biggest weakness is the seam pass. If that seam pass gets through, it's pretty much left undefended. And that was the game-winning goal for Wyatt Johnston. He scored on the seam pass from the diamond power play. The diamond has not worked for the Avs on the penalty kill for several playoff series now, and I don't know why they keep doing it. Go back to the square, do what every other team does, and maybe you'll be like every other team that actually gets past the first round sometimes. And really, what you kind of got to realize too is the entire hindsight is 2020. The entire picture post the 2022 Cup, which at least we have a cup to look back on. That is honestly amazing to be. And even if this Avalanche era ends without another cup, you always have the one from 2022, and you can always look back on it fondly. But really, you're looking at this second line center fiasco, especially after Brock Nelson was not really that good at all. He didn't score a single goal in these playoffs. You saw that Manson took $4.5 million. What an overpay for a player like Manson that has not been available whatsoever in the regular season. He's a dog in the playoffs and we love him, but for $4.5 million, I mean that should be 3.5 at most. And that is just such an overpay. And you see Nazem Kadri, the second line center who was amazing for the Avs in the 2022 Stanley Cup playoff run. You saw that Kadri, since the year since, has been awesome. The 3 seasons since, he's been amazing in the regular season. So that's a guy that clearly you might wonder, like, oh, what is that 7-year deal going to look like by the time? Because obviously he was 30 when he signed it. What is that going to look like at 37? Well, at 33, 34, it's still looking good. And who cares what that looks like at the end of the deal? You're still looking at a player who's good for at least probably the next season as well. That's 4 more years of a good cup window that you passed up. And then you look at everything else. And really, this kind of paints the picture when you already see that this Kroenke leadership just is not the best. And you obviously see how dejected each player is. You can see that really you're looking heavily when the Nuggets fired Coach Malone and Calvin Booth, the GM. You're kind of looking at this situation for the Avalanche and say, what is coming? Now, we're definitely going to do a lot more videos on this right now because there was a lot to dive into of where exactly the Avs failed, how badly the Avs have been since the 2022 Stanley Cup run. But another fun trade that was kind of proposed and actually was proposed by the Philadelphia Flyers was during the times where the Avalanche didn't have a 2C and they were stuck with Ryan Johansson. The Flyers actually called up the Avs and said, we would like Byram 1-for-1 and we will trade you Cutter Gauthier. Now, Cutter Gauthier was a player that had a lot of issues at the time. He was not wanting to sign with the Flyers, a little bit of an attitude situation there, but he's on the Ducks now and he's playing awesome. He is a dynamic talent coming up in the wings there. Wouldn't that be nice for the Avs to have if you had signed Kadri instead of overpaying for Manson and keeping Samuel Girard if you're really going that far, if you couldn't really make the cap work, then you would have had a situation where you would have had Byram underperforming like he was and said, awesome, we will absolutely trade him for Cutter Gauthier. Now you have another talent coming up in the wings. But instead, honestly, MacFarland's asset management has been horrific. I liked the trades he made. I liked the players. And if the Avs were still in the playoffs right now, I'd say it doesn't matter. You do it for everything you can get. You just sell whatever you can for another chance. But the Avs were a first-round exit this year. And now you're kind of looking at the what's left after these trades, and you're saying, what an overpay for all of these players. And I absolutely think Robin gets it correct here. This has been such a disastrous season, and I think we're going to see some real change in the Avs front office. The future is always not gray. You still have players like Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar. You can still build around the players that you do have. I mean, remember, the original Avalanche team with Joe Sakic and Peter Forsberg on it won in 1996, and they didn't win again until 2002. So you got to realize that there was a long distance in between when they won their second cup. There was still a chance every year for this team to go deep. But honestly, you got to wonder, is this GM, is this coaching staff, is this front office the proper one to do it? And the Kroenke management group has been known to make drastic decisions. So we'll just have to see what's happened, but we are going to get you all that news here on Avalanche Digest for you, Avs Nation. Hope you have a good one, and just stay off Twitter and just enjoy the outside air.